My name is Rachel. Some trips change your mood, but some trips change your entire understanding of people. Mine did both. And it all started with a seat I should have never accepted. I was a sophomore in college, young, excited, and a little too trusting. My boyfriend at the time was from South America, rich, charming, and part of a group that always traveled big. He and his brother had already booked one of those spring break packages to South Padre Island. Everything was perfect, except for one tiny problem. There were no seats left on the bus. I was disappointed but trying not to let it show. Then my roommate came into the room, waving her hand like she had solved my biggest crisis. "Hey, my boyfriend and his fraternity friends are driving down in a truck. They said you can join." At that moment, it felt like the universe had fixed everything. But later, I would realize the universe was actually testing me. So there I was, sitting in a truck with 4 guys I barely knew. I kinda knew my roommate's boyfriend, but not well enough to feel safe. 3 of the guys were polite, funny, and surprisingly respectful. But the 4th one, the owner of the truck, he was a walking red flag. He refused to drive, stayed half-conscious, and spent the entire ride stoned out of his mind. His fraternity nickname, Drugs. And trust me, the name fit him a little too perfectly. All our luggage was thrown into the back of the truck. I didn't even think twice about it. I just wanted the ride to be over. Hours later, we finally reached South Padre. My boyfriend was already waiting for me at the hotel, smiling like he hadn't slept since yesterday. The guys dropped me off. I handed the jerk, drugs, $100 for gas, thanked everyone and left. I didn't know it then, but that was the last moment of peace I'd have for a while. That night, while getting ready to go out, I unzipped my suitcase. And my breath stopped. My cash was gone. All of it. Every single dollar. $300, practically my entire spring break budget had vanished. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. And I knew instantly, almost painfully, it was him. The one they called Drugs. The other guys were too kind to do something like that. But him, he had trouble written all over his face. I started crying, quietly at first, then harder. My boyfriend held me, trying to calm me down. "Don't worry," he said softly. "I'll pay for everything, you're not alone." But I could see the anger in his eyes. In his brother's eyes. In all their friends' faces when they heard what happened. This wasn't over. Not yet. Sometimes revenge doesn't start with anger. It starts with silence. The kind that tells you something big is about to happen. The day after my money disappeared, I tried to act normal. But inside I was a mess. I kept replaying the moment I opened my suitcase. The empty space where my envelope of cash had been. The shock. The heat rushing through my chest. And every time my mind pointed to the same person. Drugs. Even his face flashed in my memory like a warning sign I had ignored. My boyfriend didn't shout. He didn't rant. He didn't even say much. But the silence he carried was louder than anger. His brother was the same, calm, but with a sharp edge in his voice whenever the topic came up. It felt like they were both thinking something, planning something, but waiting for the right moment. I didn't ask. Some part of me didn't want to know. Almost a week passed. A whole week of forced fun, sandy beaches, late nights, and pretending everything was fine. But inside, that feeling of being violated never left. Then one night we were at a bar, a crowded, noisy place filled with spring break chaos. And suddenly, my heart dropped. I saw them pull up outside. The truck. The same group. Him. My hands went cold. My stomach tightened. I leaned toward my boyfriend and whispered, "They're here." He looked at me, not surprised, not nervous, just steady. "It's okay," he said softly. "We'll leave." But then his tone shifted slightly. "Which truck is theirs?" My breath caught. But I pointed, half scared, half relieved that he even asked. He exchanged a quick look with his brother. Then both of them stood up. "Wait here, don't let them see you." And before I could say anything, they were gone. I sat there alone, staring at the door, my heart hammering inside my chest. Minutes felt like hours. What were they doing? Did they confront them? Was there going to be a fight? Would drugs come storming into the bar looking for me? Every scenario played in my head. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to run outside, but fear glued me to my seat. And then, they walked back in. Calm, composed. No scratches, no yelling, no drama. My boyfriend came straight to me, took my hand and said simply, "Let's go." No explanation. No details. Just that. And we left the bar behind us. The next few days were surprisingly peaceful. Almost like that one moment, that small act by my boyfriend and his brother created a protective bubble around me. We laughed. We explored. We enjoyed the beach like the money drama had never happened. For the first time that week, I felt safe again. I thought the story was over. But it was. Because the real twist, the one I never expected, was waiting for me at the airport. Sometimes the truth doesn't hit you like a punch. It hits you like a delayed explosion. Quiet at first, but impossible to ignore. 2 days later, we were sitting in the small Brownsville airport, waiting for our flight home. It was one of those quiet moments where your mind finally slows down. Where you think the worst is behind you. Where everything feels like it's settling into place. That's when my boyfriend leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and said, "So I didn't tell you what we did." My stomach tightened instantly. Part of me didn't want to know. Part of me absolutely did. I turned toward him slowly. "What did you do?" He glanced at his brother, who looked like he'd been waiting for this moment. Then he looked back at me and said it. "Drugs is screwed." I blinked, unsure if he meant it literally or just as an expression. "What do you mean, screwed?" He exhaled a long, heavy breath and leaned closer so only I could hear. "We put sand in his gas tank." For a moment, everything around me went silent. The airport noise faded. The announcements blurred. Even the sound of people rolling suitcases somehow disappeared. All I could hear was that one sentence. "Sand. In the gas tank. On purpose." At first I didn't know what to feel. Shock. Guilt. Satisfaction. Fear. It was a strange combination, like justice mixed with disbelief. He continued calmly. "We saw the way you panicked when you saw their truck. We saw how you didn't feel safe. And he stole from you. We weren't letting that go." His brother added, "He deserved worse." And honestly, a part of me agreed. But another part wondered how far the consequences would go. Before I could respond, our flight started boarding. The conversation ended there, unfinished, open, heavy. And the truth didn't fully sink in until we got home. Because sometimes revenge doesn't show its face immediately. Sometimes it arrives days later, through someone else's words. 2 days after we returned, my roommate walked into our dorm room with wide eyes. "Oh my God, have you seen the guys you went with?" I froze. My heart thudded against my chest. "Why?" She sat down, almost breathless. "Their truck completely died, not just broke down, died. They spent 2 extra days trying to fix it." I felt my heart sinking while she continued. "They had to clear out the fuel lines, replace some pump. And then," she paused for dramatic effect, "they had to replace the entire engine." I stared at her, not blinking, not breathing. A whole engine. Gone. She finished with the final blow. And the guy who owned the truck, his dad freaked out. Took the truck. Took the keys. Said he wasn't allowed to touch it again. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or be terrified. All I knew was, my boyfriend wasn't lying. And drugs was really, truly screwed. Some stories don't end with a fight. They end with clarity. That moment when you realize fate handled the revenge for you. After hearing my roommate's story, I sat there stunned. My mind replaying every detail my boyfriend had told me at the airport. Sand in the gas tank. Fuel lines destroyed. Pump replaced. Engine gone. And drugs, losing his truck privileges for who knows how long. It all sounded unreal, something out of a movie, yet it was real, and it happened because of one tiny moment. The moment I opened my suitcase and found all my money gone. That night I lay in bed thinking, was it too much? Was it deserved? Were we just balancing the scales? Or tipping them too far? But then I remembered the look on my boyfriend's face the night my money disappeared. The way he held me while I cried. The way he quietly stood up to protect me without making a scene. And the truth became clearer. It wasn't about revenge for him. It was about dignity, safety, respect. Something drugs had none of. What surprised me the most wasn't what my boyfriend and his brother did. It was how I felt afterward. Not powerful. Not guilty. Not triumphant. Just relieved. Like a weight had lifted. A weight I didn't even know I was carrying. My money was gone, yes. But I got something much more valuable. Proof that I wasn't alone. Someone cared enough to stand up for me. To defend me. To take action when I felt helpless. That mattered more than any $300 ever could. I never saw drugs again after that trip. No phone call. No apology. No attempt to explain. Maybe he figured out what happened. Maybe he never knew. Maybe he knew exactly why his engine died and just refused to admit the truth. But his reaction didn't matter anymore. Because that spring break taught me something I'll never forget. Sometimes karma comes quietly. Riding in the back of a pickup truck filled with sand. Sometimes justice doesn't need a courtroom. Just 2 brothers with a plan. And sometimes, the universe gives you the revenge you were too afraid to ask for. Looking back now, the money, the trip, the fear. It all feels like a different lifetime. But one thing still stands strong. I walked into that spring break feeling small. I walked out feeling protected. And maybe, just maybe, that was the real story all along.